right, today we're going to talk about emotional intelligence at work. So, emotional intelligence has 4 components. You'll see them listed here. We're going to talk about strategies for each one of these, and I'll be sharing a lot of resources. So, don't worry about taking notes. Don't worry about writing anything down because I'm going to share. Joseph's going to share the PDF a little bit, so that you can pay attention to what's being said and not write anything down. So, emotional intelligence is 4 things. It's self-awareness, which is the ability to identify and manage your own emotions as well as the emotions of others. It's about self-management, which is the ability to use the awareness of your emotions to stay flexible, manage your reactions to situations and people. And then social awareness is a component, which is your ability to accurately pick up the emotions of others, which there's a lot of listening and observing and asking good questions, which I know that everybody here is a good question asker, right? And then it's also about relationship management, which is the ability to use your own and others' emotions to manage interactions successfully. So a lot of people might not know, but EQ or emotional intelligence can be improved over time, unlike IQ, which doesn't change. And I'm going to tell you about a book a little bit later where these strategies came from. There's actually 17 strategies for every single one of these, but I'm going to highlight the ones that I think are the most important. But first, let me tell you what emotional intelligence looks like at work. So this might be a typical sales meeting or really any meeting that you've been in where you review your numbers and your goals. You maybe do a team building exercise that's kind of lame, right? You do some training by listening to someone talk. There's no interaction. Maybe you brainstorm, but it's kind of a half-hearted effort. So this is the kind of meeting where, first of all, it's hard to stay awake, right? It's easy to forget. You don't make any deep connections with anybody. There's no interaction, and there's certainly not complaints allowed. When you apply emotional intelligence to the same meeting, here's what it looks like. And these are from the book you see here, Emotional Intelligence for Sales Leadership. So first of all, there's no distractions. Everybody puts away their phones and laptops and they're paying attention because that is the expectation. The leader sets that expectation. So everyone's in the moment. There's an agenda that's been sent to you ahead of time, right? So you know what's there on the agenda. You're ready. We talk about what we're doing right. We share success stories. We share one concept that we want to learn, which is done by role playing and debriefing and not just listening to someone talk. So there's interaction and you actually learn something. And then we talk about learnings. We admit mistakes in public in front of everybody because the leader makes that comfortable to be psychologically safe, as we talked about. So, but we also talk about, how can we do better next time, right? And then there's some check-ins for accountability. So you can see there's a completely different vibe to this kind of meeting when you apply emotional intelligence at work. So let's talk about the foundational skills. As I mentioned, there's 17 strategies for each of these 4 components, but we don't have time to talk about all of them. But I'm going to talk about the ones that I think are the most important that you could start building now. So that is, the first one is to recognize and name your emotions and then deal with them. So these 4 books I feel are my favorite. Emotional Agility by Susan David, absolutely essential if you want to learn how to deal with your emotions. If you want to also give yourself permission to feel those emotions, this other one by Mark Brackett is great. And then Brene Brown talks about, I think, 80 something kinds of emotions, the nuances of each emotion, so that you learn to recognize them and name them. And then you can learn how to deal with them. And so this book, Positive Intelligence, I found very helpful in dealing with emotions and stress. Second, self-management strategy. So this is all about you, taking care of you and learning how to be the best human that you can. And in order to do that, you got to get enough sleep. I know Colson's a fan of Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, but it is really essential. And if you're not getting enough sleep, you can maybe use the book Tiny Habits to figure out how to do that. It's a really great book to develop habits. Smiling and laughing more has been shown to build better brain chemistry. So that's why it's on the list. Taking control of self-talk, this book, Choose Your Story, Change Your Life, is about what's going on inside your head and how you can take the same story and turn it to something positive. And then these other 3 books by Ryan Holiday are all about learning to focus, working with your values and being quiet and still and being kind of how to take control of the way your brain thinks. So those things help you learn to accept change and learn things from everything and everyone, which is why I like them. Next is building social awareness foundational skills. So what this means is You're learning to read people in the room, right? You're paying attention to body language. You're being in the moment. You're listening. You have empathy, and you can build empathy. So Tell Me More About That by Rob Volpe is a great book for building empathy. You're Not Listening. If you haven't read that and you are a market researcher, I strongly recommend You're Not Listening by Kate Murphy, because you think you're a good listener, you could still learn. So Being in the Moment, Ditch the Pitch is a really great book to learn how to kind of let go of the agenda that's in your head when you're having a conversation with someone. And then Never Split the Difference is absolutely the best book I've read on negotiation, but it also teaches you how to really listen better and how to ask the best questions. And of course, as researchers, we want to be good question askers. I will just add one thing about that last slide. If you want to, after you read the body language book, try listening to the news without the sound on. And it's a really great way to teach yourself how to pick up cues and clues about what people are thinking, especially when it doesn't match what they're saying. So the next set of strategies is to help you develop relationships. And it always helps to be open and curious, right, with people and not judging, which the book on empathy is really good for that. But so are all of these books you see here. Learning to take and give feedback well is something that emotionally intelligent people can do. They learn how to build trust with each other, with their team, as a leader. But you, as a leader, you also have to tackle tough conversations, and all of these books can help you do that. So, putting it all together, what does this look like at work? Well, you might notice when something's going on with a coworker, and in order to do that, you have had to pay attention, right? You kind of have to have a baseline of that person's behavior and mental kind of the way they do things, so that you can notice when something's going wrong, and you could say, wow, I noticed you're excited today. What's going on? Something an open-ended question like that. Or it could be, are you okay? What's going on? Can I help you do anything? This is what you want to pay attention to. Pay attention to bodies, to faces, learn to read the room. Also, like when you're presenting, learn to anticipate questions, but also you got to ask good questions, and you got to keep digging. And the books, especially on negotiation and body language, are really great ways to learn how to do that. You read that book on negotiation and you're going to have killer negotiation skills, which is going to help you in your work life. And also something that I learned to do. I know it sounds crazy, but don't take notes at meetings, and be in the moment. Take them right afterward. And if there's a recording, that's something you could rewatch. I used to rewatch recordings on double the speed to make sure I didn't miss anything. But usually if I wrote stuff down right after, I didn't miss anything. And lastly, act like a partner, not a vendor. So always be thinking about how you can collaborate with people instead of just thinking about what am I going to get out of this. So this book that I read a couple weeks ago, Collaboration is the New Competition, is a really great illustration of that very topic. So I'm going to be giving you a question. And the question is, what is one thing you could focus on to improve your emotional intelligence in a business setting or with your friends and family? And here's a whole bunch of other habits from this book, Emotional Intelligence Habits by Travis Bradbury. So I want you to pick one, either from this page or from what you've heard before. And this is the question for the breakouts. And then I think Joseph's going to put the, thank you, the link to this whole presentation so that you didn't have to write anything down. And I think, were there any questions that came up? Otherwise, I think we're ready to go to room.